So that ended up being part 1, and today's part 2. So Ravi will continue to share Guruji's story from a perspective that essentially only he can, because not many people were witness to Guruji's upbringing in the way that Ravi was. And then if there's time, Ravi will probably share some experiences at the end. And if there's any people have any questions or comments, we can ask Ravi at the end. So bro, you can take it away.
Yeah, good day, everyone. Thank you, Shezi. Nice to be with everyone again. Can you hear me? Cool. Okay, so the last time we spoke about Guruji's childhood, and I sort of explained the 4 different avatars or the different personalities of Guruji, which I have come to know and how I've been close to. So just to recap a little bit, for the devotees that wasn't on the call last time, we spoke. I described how I see Guruji now as Paramahamsa Sri Swami Vishwananda, the Lord, and I sort of experienced that with all of you, shared him in that form from current time now to about mid-30s, early 30s, mid-30s. And then before that, Swami Vishwananda through his 20s and 30s. And before Swami Vishwananda, we spoke, there was Visham from the age of about 14 to his early 20s. And before that, age 14, younger, we spoke about Papu, who was Guruji when he was very young. His family name was Papu. I subsequently spoke to Guruji today about this satsang, and I spoke to him about how it went, and but I avoided the idea that I was calling him Papu in public. So I think I would probably be annihilated if he ever found out, but he probably knows anyway, so it's all good. So we spoke about Papu quite a bit, and we were touching on Visham when we last spoke. So I guess what I'll do is I'll kick on, if you like, from Visham and talk to you a bit about Visham. The change I felt Guruji had transforming into Papu, from Papu to Visham. And then I think it's really difficult for me to generalize the experiences and make it biographical, because as I grow with Guruji, some of the experiences I have had with him, especially during the time of Visham, were fairly iconic in my memory. And so I'm going to share some of them with you. You might have already heard a lot of them. I am sorry for those who already have, but yeah, it's just part of my journey. So I'll touch on some of those stories too. Okay, so I think when I spoke last, I went to Mauritius 1 year, and I was looking forward to seeing Papu. So looking forward to seeing Papu. And then I waited for him. He was at school and he was coming, or college or something. And I was waiting in the lounge of my grandmother's house, in the front room. And I was waiting, and everyone was saying hello to me, everyone had come. And the only person I wanted to see was Papu. I wasn't really concerned to see anybody, my uncles, my aunties, my other cousins, even though I loved them all, but I really loved my Papu. So all of a sudden, someone said, yeah, Papu's here. So I came into the living room, and there was this tall, skinny guy. He had grown, maybe shot up like a beanstalk. In the space of 2 years, he became really tall. And I was still short and fat, to be honest. And I looked at him, and everyone was saying, hey, Visham is here. And I was like, where's Papu? And even when I had to say hello to him that day, when I went to greet him, he hugged me like he normally did. But I couldn't say Papu anymore. Papu had gone. It was very evident that Papu had become Visham. And I remember that it was really clear. He was wearing a green t-shirt and some denim jeans. And he smiled at me like it was different. He smiled like at me like you'd see him now, he had transformed completely, apart from the short hair. He didn't have long hair. And of course, our journey then started from there. And then I spoke to you guys all about how things had transformed post the Shirdi Sai Baba temple visit and Shirdi Baba appearing to Guruji. And so actually things really kicked off from there. And, you know, in Mauritius, as I've described, Guruji started to see lots of people, hundreds of people every day. And we built the temple in Rose Hill in dedication to Shirdi Sai and to Baba and to Guruji's mission. And the stories, I sort of spoke about some of the stories about Vibhuti and materializations with them. But then Guruji was coming to London, and that's where I sort of ended the story last week. So I'll kick on from there. So Guruji arrived in London in 1997, 96, 97, I think it was 97. For the first time he was in Europe, and he landed at Heathrow Airport. And so we went to pick him up. It was really exciting to see Guruji, or Visham then. I was so happy to see him. And we were at the airport, and I remember telling you guys, because all of this stuff was happening in Mauritius and I hadn't had a chance to see it. He had obviously sent me pictures and showed me stuff, but I hadn't had a chance to go to see the Vibhuti up until that point. So I was now experiencing him there. And so when he landed, he saw us, the family members, and he sort of said, who wants some Vibhuti then? So we all looked at him like, okay, yeah, we love some Vibhuti. And he materialized in Heathrow Airport in front of loads of people. He materialized a lot of Vibhuti, and he kept coming out of his hand. And he wanted to show, I guess he was showing us that he, you know, he was there now. This is him. This is the new. This was Visham. This was a new person. He had a mission. And so I remember we went home, and that day, and you know, as you can imagine, I stayed with him for the whole period he was in London. He stayed with me, or I was at my uncle's house. Wherever he went, I followed him. And during that period, of course, everyone heard about this materialization, and they wanted to experience materializing stuff. So everyone kept saying to him, can I have something? Can I have a ring? Can I have this? Can I have your blessing? And I watched Guruji materialize so many things for people. And during that period, I was just like, I really wanted something, you know, I wanted to experience that too. And Guruji would always say to me, he'll be like, bro, do you want a ring? Do you want something? And I said, look, if it's the grace of the Lord, and he wants to give me something, it shall be. Like, I was trying to be a wise guy. I was a complete idiot, really. And he just kept saying, and he would always just go shake his head at me and push me away. And every time that happened, and I didn't understand why. And it went on maybe for the first week. I mean, I must have seen every member of my family get something, right? They got a ring, they got a pendant, they got earrings. Random people who never knew Guruji was getting something. And so one day I was sitting there, and I was getting really, like, I'm gonna be really honest with you guys, I was like a bit envious and like jealous and kind of peed off that everyone else was getting something. And then so he said to me, so do you want something or not? And I was like, I would love something. What do you want? He was like, so what are you going to say then? I said, look, bro, whatever you want to give me, I'll take. And at that point, he smiled and he goes, that's the right answer, Ravi. And then he materialized me a gold ring, which was the chakra of Ma Parvati, he explained to me. It's very powerful. You need to be careful with it. And I didn't know what to do with it. I just looked at it and I was like, thanks, bro. But again, Guruji was starting to teach at that point, you know, how, you know, he was the master. If you wanted the Lord's grace, you had to ask him for it. And it's something I didn't pick up on, you know. During that period, I just thought I was trying to, I hadn't put two and two together and understood that, you know, he was actually the Lord. He was teaching me even then. And so throughout that time in London, Guruji would be with me, and we would see so many different miracles. This was a different time now. This was a time when the world of spirituality was coming alive, because Guruji was forthcoming in this time. He was, you know, giving himself so much to the people, but I don't know if people realize amount of miracles that was happening. When he was staying at my house, for instance, just like his room in Mauritius, all of the pictures of the deities in my house was covered with vibhuti, whether it would be in the lounge, the passage, the bedroom. Even pictures of me was covered in vibhuti. So you don't know what to make of that when you see pictures of you as materializing vibhuti every day. And at that time, people would come and see Guruji too. So it's strange, actually, because I probably was one of the first people at the door. So I always used to think, what happens in behind that door? So in those days, not like now. Now when you go to Spring, and of course, all of you guys have to queue to see Guruji. And, you know, you may have satsang, you may not have satsang. When he was first in London, back in 96, 97, he would just see people freely. So my mother had a small flat. It was a 2-bedroom flat. And every night that flat was maybe full with about 100 people coming and going, sitting in the passage, sitting in the lounge, sitting on top of each other. And Guruji would put me at the door, and my job was to manage the door. So I would have to, at 15, 16, I was the guy that all these older people, uncle and aunties, would have to come to try and get access to Guruji. And I would manage the queue. And it was chaotic, man, to say the least. I mean, I did that for such a long time. But everyone would queue up, and everyone would come out crying or in emotion or with something in their hand. And I never quite understood what was going on. I always found it a little strange, but it was part of Guruji, and it was part of what was happening and my responsibility to be around him at that time. On that same trip, Guruji was invited by a devotee to go to Switzerland. So he flew to Zurich to see her and stay with her for a few days while he was in Europe. She had gone to see him in Mauritius, and he had returned the favor. So he called me, and he called me after a day, and he said, bro, I'm so bored. Would you come to Switzerland? And I was like, I'd love to come to Switzerland. So I flew out to Switzerland. It was my first time there. He picked me up with the devotee at Zurich airport, and we went to spend some time with him, with her, and she took us around Switzerland, and Guruji had an amazing time. It was his first time in Switzerland. And he was, again, same scenario. He was seeing some Swiss devotees and giving satsang and darshan. But during that time, I had one of my first darshans with him. He had granted me something. So one night we were in Zurich, and we were staying in a room, and Guruji found it really hilarious to taunt me at night. You know, he would play with me. Like, I had this problem where if I fall asleep, if someone woke me up or shocked me at night, I would wake up screaming. So, and he would do it all night, you know, every day for about 2 or 3 days. He would jump out at me and I would scream and shout. And it freaked me out. And he found it hilarious. Every time I got up and I screamed, he would just crack up. And I would just sit there saying, bro, you got to stop doing this. It's not fair. It's not funny. I just felt like an idiot, really. And then, so one night he was doing it, and I think I'd become fairly, you know, I developed some censorship to it. I was like, no, I'm not interested in it. I'm not going to fall for it this time, bro. It's not going to happen. And he kept saying, and then so this one night he said, do you know what, bro? I really feel like, you know, we should venerate Shiva. And it was like 2 in the morning. And I was like, really? I was like, bro, don't you think we should go to bed? Really, it's, you know, 2 in the morning, this Swiss devotee in Switzerland, they're not really, you know, there's like rules and regulations of how you should behave. I was like, bro, we need to keep it down. We need to keep it down. And he kept saying to me, but really, because I really want to dance like Shiva. I want to be with Shiva. And I was like, that's great, bro. I was like, but we should sleep. And then he goes, he goes, what would you do if Shiva came and asked you to dance with him? And if it wasn't me, what would you do then? I was like, yeah, sure. I was like, great. Yeah, I'll tell him too that it's time to go to bed, and that this old lady is sleeping next door to us, and it's not right. So let's just stop this. And then all of a sudden, this voice started talking to me. He said, I'm going to dance like Shiva now, like a Nataraj. And I was like, bro, what's this funny voice you're putting on? And I heard him sniggering, and I was like, what is going on? And he kept saying, I'm going to dance, I'm going to dance, I'm going to dance. And it was a different voice, right? And I could just hear Guruji. Every time I spoke back, I said, not really, you're not. It's too late. You're going to make noise. You're going to upset people. Bro, really, stop this. Bro, leave me alone. Bro, stop pulling my cover. Because someone was pulling my cover, so I would. Sorry, did you hear anything I just said? Oh, all
Yeah,
right.
it was
Sorry.
it was just the last 5 seconds, Ravi.
All right. So this voice, so the Guruji kept sniggering, and this voice kept saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to dance. And he kept pulling the blanket from me. And I was looking the other way, pulling the blanket back over me, saying, bro, leave me alone. Really, this is not fair. It's not nice that you disturb people at night. And I was trying, like, we had a playful banter between us. It's probably a bit more colorful than that, but that's how I'm describing it to you guys then. And then finally, after about 2 or 3 minutes, the voice started to get really frustrated. And I was like, bro, it's not funny, man. Because this voice started saying, you don't remember me. You don't remember what what you and we did. And when I danced Nataraj, and I kept saying, well, yeah, whatever, really. Okay, I remember, bro, it was brilliant. I was making this sarcastic comment. And every time I made a sarcastic comment, I heard a snigger. Guruji found it hilarious. The whole thing was funny to him. And then eventually the voice said, well, that's it, Ravi. If you can't be bothered to identify with me, recognize me, venerate me, then I will take my Trishul and it will be finished for you. So I was like, oh, bro, seriously, it's not nice, I'm sleeping. It's not nice to threaten me, I love you. And he was like, bro was, at that moment, bro said, no. And he stood up, and I turned around, and I had Lord Shiva with a Trishul towards my neck, and Guruji stopped it. And he just looked at me, he laughed, because he had called Lord Shiva to dance with him. And I'd spent the whole evening saying to him, at least half an hour, 45 minutes, saying to him, no, I'm not going to be involved in this. I'm not interested. And then after that, Guruji, he found it so funny. He went to sleep, and I stayed up all night, literally shaking. I had no idea. He woke up maybe about 4 a.m. after that, and he said, why are you not sleeping? I was like, I'm scared, bro. He's like, it's okay. I'm with you. You have nothing to worry about. And that was my first darshan with a deity, with Guruji's blessing. It's beyond belief. And so post that experience, there was other experiences similar. We'll go on. So I move on to them now. So then a few months later, I went back to Mauritius after Guruji had left. So I went back to Mauritius, maybe 6-7 months later, I went back to Mauritius. And I was with Guruji, and it was like normal. Everything was continuing. The experiences were continuing. The amount of devotees that would come and see him was unbelievable. Every day there was hundreds of people, and he would help everybody. And everybody would leave happily. But during that period, Guruji had me stay with him. I was, like I told you, we always shared the room. So I was staying with him in Rose Hill, and that's when I started to have a lot of experiences. I had maybe 1 week in which I had quite a lot of intense experiences. So the first was the story of Lord Rama, which I think a lot of you must know or probably may have heard of, but I'll retell the story. We were sitting down, and during that period, I was saying to Guruji, I find it really strange, bro. And this was maybe 96 or 97. 97? Yeah, 97. It was a few months after he left London. I was saying to Guruji, you know what? It's really interesting, all this religious stuff, but why is it that in Hinduism, there is no traces or no evidence of our deities. And this was me before I, you know, read up or understood or knew there was a Vrindavan or an Ayodhya and you can go to these places. I was young. So I was like, why, you know, you hear about the cross of Christ and you hear that there's the piece of the crosses everywhere in the Catholic Church. And if you go to Notre Dame, there was the crown, the thorn crown. I was like, why don't we have this for like our gods? So I kept saying to him, you know, surely Sri Ram must have left something somewhere. Can't you just, you know all these deities. Why don't you find out and we can do something? I was bizarre. I was stupid. I don't know what I was wasting my time doing with saying this to him. But he was, you know, he always played along with me. It was never, nothing was out of limits in those days. There was no Ravi, shut up. There was no Ravi, be quiet. There was no, well, we'll talk about it later. Everything was on. You name it, you know, you want it, you had it. You know, it wasn't like today. Okay. And so I kept saying to him, you know, maybe you should meditate on Sri Ram and ask him or something like that, you know. And then at that point he said, do you want to speak to Sri Ram? I was like, love to, yeah. Not thinking about it. And then all of a sudden, within like 5 minutes, he said, okay. He said like this, and then all of a sudden there was a light, and then there was a man standing in the room next to me and him in his mother and father's living room in Mauritius. And we were sitting around a dining table and the TV was in front of us. We were watching a movie. It was like in the evening. And I didn't know it was Sri Ram. I had no idea who it was. There was just a man there. And he was wearing a orangey yellow dhoti, no top, hair in a bun. And he started talking to me. So he said, bro, you can ask him. So I didn't know who he was. So I started asking him questions. But he didn't really talk too much. He just said to me, the answer to your question will soon be apparent. And I was like, okay. He said, you'll see the Americans will be able to prove my existence. And I was like, your existence? He said, yes. There's pictures from the sky they will take, and they will show you that I was here. And then he left. And Guruji said, you got an answer now. Maybe you should think about it. So I didn't pay any attention to it. I just let it go. And it was an experience that happened during that period. And I'll talk to you about a few more of those experiences with Visham in a bit. And I was like, okay, yeah. And then subsequently, I think a few years later, I was in London and I told someone about the story, a devotee in London, I forgot his name, a Mauritian guy. And he called me up and he said, Ravi, do you know there's this thing called Google Earth now? And I'm like, yeah, because I was remembering the story you told me about. And I was like, yeah, what about it? And he told me, he's like, now if you look at satellite pictures of India that you can see on Google Earth, there's this article I read from India that proves there was like a bridge connecting Sri Lanka and India together. Remember you told me the story? And I was like, really? And in fact, yeah, it was exactly how the Lord had told me, how he explained it to me. And it was just like that, you know, experiences like that was just every day to me. During the same trip, I was in Mauritius with Guruji. And one night, it was like 2 or 3 in the morning. We were fairly out there, right? And he said, look, bro, I really feel like dancing tonight. What do you think? Should we dance? And I was like, yeah, okay. Let's dance. Okay. So what he decided to do was he took some big speakers that he had and he put them on top of the roof in the temple in Mauritius. And in those days, it was just the roof. And there was no other buildings. It was just the temple. It was flat, and you could walk up there. And he lit it up, and he basically put the music on, and he started dancing, right? And it was new. No one was dancing. Actually, retrospectively, now I think about it, that was the first time he probably was dancing like that. Like we see Guruji now in the temple. That was then. And Guruji was on top of the temple. And we both thought it was a good idea to spin, you know, like how you see Guruji spinning. But we were spinning on the roof and letting go with nothing around us. Like, I don't know, you know, we were young enough and naive enough to do stupid things. I think if anyone had saw us, they would have thought we were absolutely nuts. But we were doing that, and we did it all night until 2, 3 in the morning. And at that point, Guruji said to me, "Someone wants to speak to you again." And he said, let's all, he goes, "Let's gather around." And there was another guy, this Mauritian guy that was there. And I don't know where he was from or who he was. So I don't know if he records. And we sat down, and he said, "So I'm going to call Lord Shiva. He wants to speak to you again." So I was like, "Really?" And he goes, yeah. He goes, just go with it. Just go with it. And I was like, okay. This was after we were playing loud music or bhajanam on top of the roof. It was like, like Kulu Shaker. I think it was the same time that Govinda song had come out. And we were dancing to that on top of the roof, like rocking, proper rolling our heads, shaking around, like completely out there. And we were also lighting fireworks. So I told you how Papu and I used to light fireworks before. We were lighting fireworks. Nothing had changed, right? We were lighting fireworks. This is all 2, 3 in the morning. I think Guruji's mum had come up. She had saw us, and she just shook her head and walked away. But she just thought, you know what? I can't even entertain these guys. This is nuts. And she left us. I think even Guruji's sister had thought this is too much. She had gone to bed too. So it was me, this other guy, and Guruji. And he had called Lord Shiva. And all of a sudden, there was this big light over Guruji, and the Lord was present. And he wasn't in his form like he was the first time. Maybe because I was scared, or Guruji didn't want to freak me out. But the Lord, and he started to have a conversation with us. And Guruji said, "Speak to him," to speak to me. So I was like, I didn't want to speak to you. He said, Lord Shiva said, "So your brother tells me you want to speak to me." And I was like, "No, I didn't really want to speak to you. I had no intention of calling you here. I'm really sorry." And he said, "But he said you called me." And I said, "No, I didn't. Nothing to do with me." And then he said, "What do you want, Ravi? What do you want now?" And I said to him, "I have no idea what I want. Can I just have your blessings?" And he gave me his blessings. And then he said to me, "You don't understand how lucky you are that your brother is sitting in front of you." And I sat there and I thought, "You're probably right, yeah." And he said, "You're very, very lucky. And all of the people around you are lucky to experience him and be in his presence." And I was like, "Yes, yeah, that's good." And I took his pranams. And then he stopped and he said to me, "I have to leave now because you have a family member coming, and I'm here to see you and your brother, not him." And I said, "There's no one here apart from this boy, myself, and Guruji." And it was 2, 3 in the morning, like I described to you guys. So no one's going to be here. And at that moment, my uncle from England was in Mauritius, and he came round the corner. Literally, Shiva had left. After about 5 seconds, I looked up. Guruji and me looked up, and we looked behind us. And there was my little cousin, Dirosh, and my uncle walking towards the house. And I was like, what the hell? You know what's bizarre? I'm telling you the story like this, right? I was shocked that my uncle and my little cousin had come around the corner, and I was having the darshan of Lord Shiva with Guruji. I mean, I had no bloody idea what was going on with me. I mean, I had no idea that was special. I was so caught up in the maya of everything. I just thought that was normal, and the fact that my cousin, my uncle had come around the corner was abnormal. So it was strange. I was like, wow, he really knew that these guys were coming around the corner. But Ravi, this was Lord Shiva talking to you. Of course he knew they were coming. And it was funny, because I was thinking about the story. And I was talking to someone about it. And then all of a sudden, oops, can everyone see me? Hello? Okay, it's come back. Sorry, it disappeared for a second, everyone. I was thinking about the story, and I was looking through some pictures, and I was like, to show you guys tonight, if I could find any pictures of me and Visham hanging out. And then I found a picture that we took that night when my uncle had come. So look, this is Guruji, my uncle, and my cousin. This picture was taken literally after I had darshan of Lord Shiva. And they were there at 3 a.m. They probably have no idea why I was sitting down so pale and freaked out. But that's Guruji and my uncle and my cousin. It was unreal. Yeah, so that happened. And so then a couple of nights later, Guruji was saying to me, talking to me, you're so lucky, you know, you have these darshans. And I was like, yeah, I feel really lucky. And then he said to me, I think you should have another. Like, who should we speak to tonight? And I was like, I had no idea. I was like, bro, I don't think we should speak to anyone tonight. And he was like, he was in the room looking up. And in his room, there was every deity you can imagine, right? There was Maha, Shiva, Kali, Durga, Krishna, Rama, whatever, Ganesh. It was everywhere, okay? And so I said to him, bro, I'm not really feeling anything tonight. You know, let's just go to sleep. And he goes, no, you don't understand. You need to have some darshan. He was like, pick a picture. And I was like, okay, look, there's a Durga here. And he was like, yeah, let's have a darshan of Durga tonight. And I was like, not really, man. And so then he said for 2 minutes, I was like, bro, let's just go to sleep. He said, no, you have darshan of Durga tonight. And then after about half an hour, there was a lady in red sitting in the room in the dark, trying to talk to me. And he was like, he was asking me, take her blessing. And I was like, how do you get out of this room, man? What do you do? Why am I going through this? And so she, I didn't even speak to her that night. I was so scared. She was speaking a different language. I didn't even want to say anything. And she spoke with Guruji and then she left. And then the next night, Guruji was talking to me about this. And he said, how was it? You know, what did you think? I was like, yeah, bro, I don't think we should do this anymore. It was good the first few times, but I don't know if I'm down with this. And then he said, no, I think we should do it again tonight. And I was like, no. And I tried to sleep. And I think I've told the story. So I'm gonna tell you guys, because it was part of the same experience. I'm gonna tell you guys the story of Mahakali and Guruji and myself. And so the next night, we were in Rose Hill. We were in the room. And I don't know, if you've ever been to the room, I think some of you have, right? A lot of you have been to Mauritius. But the room was set up in such a way that Guruji's bed was against the window as soon as you walk through the door. Guruji always slept on the edge of the bed so he can come out. And I would always sleep by the window. It's like I was imprisoned a little bit, but I was in between Guruji, the window, and the door was here. And in Mauritius, if you go, the security system they have the metal barred windows, you know, so you can open the windows all day and no one can go through because the windows are blocked. So that night, Guruji said, you know, I think tonight you'll have a darshan of a Ma. He was asking me a lot about the darshan of Durga and how she sounded and if it was nice and what do you think, and I didn't pay attention to it. And then he sat up and he started to meditate. And then there was a lady in the room again, a little bit later, and she wasn't as friendly as the other lady that had come the day before. And she said to me, Ravi, why did you call me here? I was like, I didn't call you, man. I didn't call you. But I ignored this lady because I didn't want to talk to her. She seemed really upset. So I pretended I was sleeping. And while I was pretending I was sleeping, I was looking at the window thinking, I'm in a bit of a problem here. I was like, I can't pass Guruji on my right because that would be disrespectful and he'll probably kill me because he's obviously called someone to speak to me. And he was just looking at her. He was in meditation and looking at her. And I couldn't get out of the room. And she was getting more intense. So I put my hand to the window bar to see if there was any way that this metal would break or if I can get out the window. I couldn't. I was stuck. I was stuck between the metal, Guruji, door, and this lady who was standing in front of me. So I thought, okay, how am I going to deal with this? Obviously, this is not a normal experience. Obviously, this is not just any lady. So I thought maybe it's just Durga again, you know, maybe she's just a bit upset with me. Maybe I didn't talk about the experience nice enough to Guruji. So I said, she kept saying, why am I here? Why do you want to speak to me? And I kept saying, I have no idea. I was thinking it. Then I just said, I think I said to her, I don't know what I want, Ambe. Because I thought she was Durga, and I thought if I addressed her as Durga, maybe she would just be Durga and it would be all sweet and she would be nice. And she said, I'm not Ambe, I'm Mahakali. And I was like, shit. So I held the window more and I wanted out, man. I was ready to do anything to get out the room. And I couldn't. And Guruji also was in his mode and he looked, I didn't want to go over him because he was in a meditation mode. It was either death by the hand of Visham, my Guruji, or my Mahakali. So I didn't know what to do. So I thought I need to embrace the experience. So I went with it. So I said to her, Ma, thank you for coming. And she goes, but what do you want? And I said, I have no idea. And I was frozen for like a minute, not knowing what I should say to her. And she became very angry. And then she said to me, no, tell me what you want. Tell me now. So I just said, can you explain your forms to me? Or why are you so dark? I said to her, why are you so dark? And she explained to me that that the reason she's so dark is because she's infinite. Nothing can change her. Every color you see merges into the darkness. So she's infinite. That's why she represents herself in a dark form. And then she said to me, the head around my neck, these represents the ego of men. I take the ego of men so they don't have ego. And I said, okay, Ma, this is good. And I was like, hopefully you don't take my head. And then she said the hands around my waist, but she wasn't in that form. She was just wearing a simple red sari. But she said the hands that they put around my waist represents the wrongdoing of men. When men do wrong, this is the wrong. I take that wrongdoing away upon myself. I said, okay, Mom, that's nice. Yes. And then she said to me, okay, I have to leave now. And she did her pranams to Guruji. And she said, I need to leave. Do you have a lemon? That's what she said to me. I had no idea what to do with a lemon, you know. I had no idea why I needed a lemon. So I sort of went around Guruji, went into the kitchen, out to the door into the kitchen, and Guruji's bedroom, it's a bungalow, you know, the house is in Mauritius. So his room was adjacent to the kitchen. So I ran into the kitchen, looked for a lemon. I couldn't find a lemon. So I found a small dried up one and I took it to her. And she said, that's not good. That's not a good lemon. Why did you bring this to me? So I was like, I'm sorry. And then she said to me, okay, this kumkum that you see on this table, put it on my head and I'll leave. And I was like, no, I can't touch that. Because, you know, Guruji was very specific about vibhuti in his house, in his room, you know. If there was vibhuti coming from a wall, you're not allowed to touch. If you ask him, he'll give you. But you touch it, you get in trouble. So I said to her, I can't take that. I'm not going to touch that. She started to get really upset with me. And I said, okay, you know what? Guruji might beat me a little bit later on, but I'm just going to do it. So I took some kumkum from the thing, there was a picture of her this big, you know, it was massive. And it was covered in kumkum, and the kumkum was piled up to her head. If you can imagine a whole picture, the kumkum was coming out of the picture and piled. So I thought, you know, a little dot's not going to hurt anyone. So I took it from the corner and I placed it on her head and she left. And then Guruji said to me, how was that for you then? And I said, bro, that was intense, man. That was really scary. He was like, really? I was like, yeah. He was like, how was it compared to yesterday? I was like, really scary. I mean, I wouldn't, you know, I don't want that to happen again. And then as I said she was scary, she appeared in the room. And she said, Ravi, do I scare you? Really, do I scare you? I'm your mother. I'm here to love you. Why do you think I scare you? And I was like, no, you don't scare me. And then she said, give me the trishul. I will show you what fear is, or how it should be to be scared. And I said, no, I don't want to be scared, ma. Please, ma, forgive me. And she said, okay, I'll give you a chance. She goes, tomorrow in this temple of your brothers, I will appear 3 times. you need to identify me just once out of the 3 times. Otherwise, then tomorrow night I will come again, finish. It will be your last day on earth, Ravi. So I was like, my God. Guruji just laughed. Like, it was hilarious to him. The whole experience was like, ha ha, ha ha ha. And he went to bed. He slept. I was like, the hell, man? How can you sleep after that? That's just not normal. Why would you sleep? So I sat up, really shaking. And then he woke up and he's like, why are you not sleeping? What's your problem? And I was like, bro, you called Mahakali. She's come now. She's threatened to destroy me. And then tomorrow, I'm not going to be on earth again. I'm just going to get rid of me. You love your brother. I said, you're going to have to help me out here, man. What do I do? He was like, he just kept laughing. And I was like, it's not funny. It really is not funny. And then he said to me, oh God. He was like, it's really easy, man. He was like, why are you stressing out? And I was like, okay. He said, tomorrow she said she'll come 3 times. I was like, yeah. Because she said you have to identify her once. I was like, yeah. Yeah, it's easy. And he tried to go back to sleep and I was so shaking him. I was like, it's not easy. What do I do? How do I know? And then he said to me, it's really easy, bro. Oh my God, I'm just going to go to sleep. I'll tell you in the morning. I was like, no, you can't tell me in the morning. You wake up late. If she comes before then, I'm finished. And he said, okay, I'll tell you what it is. Because you're so stupid that you don't know. I was like, okay, I'm stupid. I am, bro. I am. Tell me, what do I need to do? He said, tomorrow she will come 3 times, right? I was like, yes, because identify her once. Yes, that's the plan. He was like, easy. Every woman that comes in the temple, just go and touch her feet. They're all Ma, right? She resides in everybody. I was like, okay, yeah. Sounds easier now. So that morning, I didn't sleep probably for the rest of the night. And I woke up early. I had a shower. I put my kurta on, everything. And I took the key to open the temple. I've never done that in my whole life. I was used to sleep until Guruji was sleeping till 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, and Guruji's dad, because he used to go to the gym early in the morning and to work, he would open the temple. I had beaten him to that morning. I was ready. I had opened the temple. The lights was on. Everything was good. I had agarbatti for people. And I just sat there and I was thinking, you know what? This is going to be really weird, right? I'm going to have to touch everyone's feet. These people don't know me from Adam. What are they going to think? I'm going to go and touch their feet. So I had this plan. I came up with this cunning plan. I took agarbatti sticks, incense sticks, and I just thought, as a Mataji or auntie would come into the temple, I just throw it at their feet and pretend I had to go and pick it up. And then when it fell down, I'll go and pick it up and I'll just touch their feet discreetly. And I thought, smashed it, clever boy. So I did that. First auntie came in the temple, threw some agarbatti at her, touched her feet, and they obviously thought I was nuts. But I kept doing it. Guruji's sister came in the morning. I couldn't believe I had to do it. When Tina woke up, I went and shook bro, and I said, hey, Tina's coming in the temple. Do I have to touch her feet too? He was like, yeah. I was like, oh, come on, man, really? He was like, yeah. So I did it to her. She looked at me like I was an idiot. She started shouting at me and laughing at me. And me and Tina we used to always tease each other a lot. So I felt like a zero when that happened. I really felt stupid. Even my mum came and I did it to my mom, Guruji's mom. Everyone who entered the temple in the morning, I touched their feet. And around noon time, Guruji had got ready and hadn't seen him all morning because I was just sitting in front of the temple. And he said to me, you're not going to eat breakfast? And I was like, no, I have to stay here, bro. You know, stories going on. I can't go. He just laughed. And I think he was getting a bit frustrated because he was like, I want to go out. I want to do something. He was like, I have to go to Port Louis. I was like, really? He was like, yeah, I have to go to Port Louis because he was going to go to Kenya because I need to go and sort my passport out. You coming? I was like, bro, you're having a laugh. You're talking about going to Port Louis to sort your passport out. Like, you're just going to go to Port Louis. He's like, no. He said, stop it. And I was like, no, really? So at that, I think about an hour later, he called me into his, not even his room. He called me into Tina's bedroom, into his sister's bedroom. And he said, right, we're going to Port Louis. And I'm like, no, I'm not. And he closed his eyes to meditate. And just then Mahakali appeared in the room. And I was like, holy mother of God. So I said, literally, she's mother of God. So I said, Ma, I took Ma's speech. She goes, Ravi, I'm happy with you. I'm happy with you. You identified me. I was like, really, Ma? She said, yes, you identified me. I'm very happy with you today. But remember, I'm your mother. You know, I will never hurt you, my children. Don't ever feel like that about me. I was like, never, Ma. I'll never say you're scary again. I'll always venerate you. She said, yes, that's good. And then she blessed me. And she said, what do you want? And so she gave me a blessing. And then she said to me, to always to venerate my brother, because I was very lucky to have him. And she seeked his blessing also. I've never said this to anyone actually, but she seeked his blessing and then she left. And that was my story of Mahakali. The next night, Guruji was going to go to Kenya. I think a night later, he told me to come and sleep. I refused to go in the bedroom. I did not go that night. I stayed up in the lounge until he fell asleep. My uncle had come out into the lounge and said, what the hell's wrong with you? Go to bed. And I said, no, I can't go in that room. I didn't go back in there because it was just too traumatizing, man. The whole thing had destroyed me. But yeah, so that was the Mahakali story. And then Guruji went to Kenya the next day or a couple of days later. And you know, and there's stories like this everywhere. I mean, if you speak to the devotees, you speak to Rakesh in Kenya, you speak to Partha, because after Guruji went to Kenya, I think he went to India and he met Partha in India. And then he started to go to Switzerland to see, to visit Partha and spend time with him and his family as well as coming to London. And these stories with Visham were everywhere, you know. When he eventually, after a year or so after meeting Partha, he went to live in Switzerland. And whilst he was in Switzerland, I think he called me one day and he said, you know what, bro, I really am interested in Christianity now. And I was like, really? Because he was staying in Switzerland and he was visiting the churches with Partha and this merge and this fusion of the Christianity and Hinduism. And he said, I love Christ too now. I was like, that's cool, bro. Love that. But Guruji, then I think I went to visit him he moved to France. He moved to Paris. After a while, he moved to Paris. I think he was studying theology. He was doing a course in Paris and he was staying with Pierre Nadege in Paris, in their place. And he was so inspired by the life of the saints during this period. So what Visham would do, he had asked Pierre Nadege to make like a garden. They had like a shed and he wanted to live like a hermit in the shed, to live like a saint, to feel what they felt. And so he made this room outside in their garden where he would sleep. And even in the winter in Paris, it was so cold, but he wanted to go through the experiences of the saints. So I visited him and I visited his room in Paris. And he'd basically taken Christianity to the same way he had done with Hinduism, in terms of, it's like he had conquered it. Like when I walked into his room, he had pictures of all Christian saints and Christ. And in that room, because he was in France and Switzerland, he hadn't gone to Greece yet. He was following the Catholic Church, and all the miracles that you would associate with that particular church was happening in that room around him. And there would be statues of Mother Mary with crying oil and pictures of Christ where they would just be bleeding. And it was like from Hinduism, Vibhuti everywhere, to the Christian thing. And I was like, it was completely different. But it just demonstrated that Guruji's will, you know. It didn't matter what the religion was. He was that master of it, you know. He was the Lord that encouraged all of these phenomena to happen with him. It didn't matter what path it was. Guruji then came to London, and I remember I had a statue of Mother Mary, and I think there was an earthquake in somewhere, and it was really sad. But the statue, Guruji was praying to her, and he told me before this was going to happen that something bad was happening. And then the whole of my house, my mother's flat, would smell of jasmine, because she started to cry jasmine oil. And it was so intense. And it was just normal for Guruji, you know. It was, to be around him and you wanted to experience God, there wasn't a limit in those days, you know. You would experience it to the capacity, to the maximum of every deity. You wanted to experience Mahakali, you would have her darshan. If I wanted to experience Shirdi Sai Baba, I had his darshan, you know, many times with Guruji. And it was just like that, because as they told me, they all resided within him, because he is the Lord. So it was amazing. But the one thing I always remember during that whole period, up until obviously Guruji became with people, because every time everyone would go in, they would just come out crying. So one day there was this is my favorite story, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again because I just really liked it. One day I was at the door. Guruji was in London. I think I had my uncle's place in Grays, and it was interesting. I was at the door, standing all evening at the door like I normally would, and there was a lady and guy that used to always come to the programs to see Guruji, and they were there, and I was like, "So you guys gonna go in separately or together?" And they were like, "Yeah." And they just kept giggling, and I was just like, didn't understand what they were talking about, what was going on. I was just like, God, they could tell me, because there's other people behind them. People are starting to getting moody. Anyway, so Guruji said, "Come in." He brought them in, and he told me, he called me in for a minute, and he said to them, "So why are you here?" And they both smiled, and he goes, "You don't need to tell me. I know why you're both here." And in that moment, he materialized some sindoor, orange sindoor, and he took it to the guy and said, "Listen, I can't make it to your wedding because I'm going to India, but if you take the sindoor now, I can witness your marriage right now here." And at that moment, they all started to cry, and I was like, "Oh, that's what happens in the room. These sort of things happen in here." And it was a really touching moment, because I felt that love and that connection those people had. And subsequently, I think a few years later, Guruji took on the form of Swami Vishwananda, and we had the first darshan in London. His first darshan was here in London. I've seen the academy. I suggest that it was in Germany. I'm not agreeing with that. It was in London, in the temple in Leytonstone. It was where he did darshan the first, and the first satsang was also here in London. So, and Visham had become Swami Vishwananda. So I think I've gone a little bit over in time, so I'll stop there. But if you guys have any questions about the last satsang or what I've talked about today, by all means ask.
Yes, that's quite the satsang, Ravi. I'm not quite sure what to say. So, does Swami Karuna, do you have any comments to make before we take questions from anyone else?
That was just an amazing story, just phenomenal. I'm almost lost for words. I just think it's fascinating listening to it, and how amazing Guruji was, because I think I met him shortly after that first darshan part, and
you did, yeah, that's right.
We met you, and it was just, we never realized at the time, you know, we just felt this amazing love, but we never realized at that time, you know, he was God and all these deities.
Oh, Swami?
I think we lost Swami.
Okay, I think the connection went. I think Guruji's going to be probably singing soon during the Waves of Love Festival, so we'll just keep it to maybe a couple of more questions. Anyone else have a question? You can take yourself off mute and ask Ravi. I'm just going through the pages. Everyone's pretty quiet. Ravi, I have a question. Oh, Swami, are you back? Sorry, you cut out there.
No, I'm just saying that I went to the darshan in Regent's Park, which I think was shortly afterwards, and I was just saying we had no idea at the time. We just felt this amazing love, but as you see what the Ravi's experiences, we've learned more and more, understood more and more, and how Guruji holds all these deities within him. And I still think now we have no idea who Guruji really is and what he's doing. And you can look back, you know, over like 15, or I can look back 15 or 17 years, you see how it's evolved, and how grateful and fortunate we are just to be with him. But we've no idea where he's going to lead us all, because you can look back, see and where it's moved to, and just feel very blessed. And just incredible stories, phenomenal stories, phenomenal. So thank you, Ravi, really. And you touch all our hearts with it. I felt we were really touched at a very heart level by all the stories. And
thank you so much.
And they sound so real. There's no sense.
Well, this is the funny thing. Do you know the funny thing is, so many people have asked me, be honest, did it really happen? And genuinely, it did. Honestly, genuinely, everything I've said is what happened. I never asked for any experience, and I never wanted one. So Guruji's grace, and I was very lucky to be with him.
We live in a different world with Guruji. Our world is totally different.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you. It's really special.
I've got a question.
Yes, ask away.
Yeah, hi Ravi. Jatin Das. Yeah, really powerful. Yeah, it was powerful. I loved it. I mean, my own experience of these miracles is I kind of do and don't believe it, but then when I see it, and then it's something else and something else. So all the stuff you're saying, I believe it happened. And, you know, I suppose what I really want to say is, like, how was it living your life in London with random people when you're dealing with all this?
Yeah, it was, I don't know. You know what? I have no idea. I would love to answer the question. It was just normal for me. It did, like I said, you know, all of these things were happening. But you've got to understand, it was all happening within his own world, within his own grace. I was just the conduit that was part of the story. I wasn't in it. You know, for me, I was thinking that was normality. I wasn't thinking there was anything different happening at the time, because that's the way he wanted it. Like I said, when the darshan of Shiva happened on that roof, I was more shocked that my uncle had come around the corner. For God's sake, I just had darshan of Lord Shiva with Guruji on the roof. You know, I had a chat with him. You know, like I'm talking to you now, and I'm thinking my uncle popping around the corner. Ooh, that's spooky, innit? He actually came around the corner. That's what got to me at that point. But that's what it was. It wasn't that I wanted to have that experience, or it was all about what Guruji wanted to have that experience at that time. It was all him. So really, I was just part of it. It was just happening around. I was just lucky.
Cool, man. Thanks.
No worries.
Hi, Ravi. Sorry.
Ravi, very good experience, Ravi. Very good hearing you. Teddy from Nairobi.
Hi, Teddy. How are you? Gurudev. Teddy, you should do a satsang one day too. You must have some stories as well, huh? Hi, Kaji.
Kaji is doing a live satsang on the 13th.
Everyone, please join Kaji satsang. Please extend and share out. We'll dial in.
It's her present to Guruji on his birthday.
Nice.
It was nice listening to you.
Thank you, Teddy.
I had a question. Have you experienced any healing miracles? And
many hearing. Sorry, I didn't go into it, but that was just every day. That was my reality, you know. For me, when if you were with Guruji, there was no need to be sick. He didn't have that around him. In those days, you know, in those early days, I think Guruji is more philosophical about death now, in terms of it's part of life. You know, devotees merge into him. In those days, there was no need to die. There was none of that. So many devotees came to see him who was sick, terminally ill, who had problems, and all of them had healing. I've seen so many, I can't tell you.
Mm-hmm. Could you explain any one of them, like something that you saw them later on? And
so actually, once I was this is a story. This is two stories I'll tell you very quickly, okay, about myself, because I can talk about third party people, probably not appropriate because it's their illnesses and medical records. I think even in spirituality, medical records should stay private and confidential, right? But I remember when I was about 15 or 16, 14, 15, I would gone to Mauritius and I had severe eczema on my body. It was really bad. I was really ashamed to take my top off, My whole arms here, across all of it, my back, all of my back was covered in really bad eczema and black rashes. And I was with Guruji and he said, let's go swimming. Let's go to the sea. And I was like, yeah, I don't really want to go. So we went and I was going to swim with a t-shirt on. And he said, take that top off. And I was like, no, bro, I've got all this stuff on me. He said, Ravi, take the top off, hold my hand, we'll go in the water. When you come out, there won't be nothing on your body. I said, really? I just went along with it. I took off my top. I went into the sea. When I came out, I had nothing on me. There was not a single mark. My skin was clear and normal. Nothing at all. And I never thought anything of it because it was just him telling me that was normal. And I was in Switzerland once. So that was one story. Another time I was in Switzerland. And you know what? This is shocking, right? I can't even believe I'm going to tell the story and whatever. But I remember I started to lose some hair around here. And I was going a bit bald and I was like, oh my God, man, this is shock. This is bad. People were coming to see Guruji with illnesses, with financial difficulties, with world life problems. And I went to him one night after he saw loads of people. I said, bro, I need to talk to you. It's really bad. And he said, what's up? What's up? What's wrong? And I said to him, look at my hair here. Can you see? And there was a little bald patch. And I was like, it's really bad, bro. How can I live like this? And then he said to me, yeah, really bad. He goes, well, what's the problem? Why do you have a problem with it? I was like, no problem. It's a big problem. And he said to me, and forgive me if Kuru ever hears this. He said, Swami Kuru was Stefan at the time, or Divya, or whatever. This Stefan, he was before even initiation. So he was Stefan. He said, look at Stefan next door. He's bald completely. I was like, yeah, I know. And he goes, you're only worried because of women, isn't it? You don't think you'll get a girlfriend because you're bald. And I said, no, it's not that. And now he was like, it is that. And I was like, no, it's not. We had a thing about it for about 5 or 10 minutes. And then he said, okay, I'll sort it out. And then he took some water and he played with my hair, flicked it, and he did something. And then it all came back straight away. And my hair was fine. I got my hair back. Those were the days, I think now if I went and said I'm bald, he'll just tell me to get lost. But in those days, I got away with it. It happened.
Now I can see why you're lucky.
Yeah, exactly. The hair thing, isn't it?
Thank you for that.
You probably met Hina the very next day.
I met Hina in a temple, and then I had no idea. Really didn't think anything of her. And then Guruji came home to London. It's true, sorry. Guruji came home to London, and Hina's family had come. They were Sai Baba devotees, and they had heard about Guruji. And so we invited him to meet Guruji. So he met Guruji, and then Bro came out of the room with her parents and goes, do you know what? You're going to marry her. And I'm like, no, I'm going to marry her. Are you crazy? And he was like, yeah, you are. You're going to have, and then he told her sister at the time, you're going to have 2 girls and a boy. And I was like, no way, man. And look at where we are today, 2020. I've got 2 girls and a boy and I'm married, yeah. So.
Okay, that's really wonderful. So Ravi, I think as I don't want people to miss Guruji's performance at Waves of Love tonight, so we'll probably call it night there. So a huge thank you again from BMUK, and there's probably lots of other people from lots of other countries are actually on this call as well. And I think your last recording kind of went round about. I counted over 1,000 views when I checked it earlier today. So I'm sure everyone's going to get to hear these wonderful pastimes. So just before we go, so obviously we've mentioned it a few times, but Guruji will be singing on the Waves of Love Festival in about another 15-20 minutes, so go onto YouTube and Facebook to check that out. Every Tuesday and Thursday, Guruji does the Connect with the Divine session. So I'm going to say in UK time, adjust it to wherever you're listening to. So from 4 to 5, he does japa and he does satsang all in one go, again across YouTube and Facebook. And it's his, I'm sure everyone knows, it's Gurudev's appearance day on Saturday. Don't ask me what's happening, because the plan, it appears it's changed several times already, and I'm sure it will change again for Saturday. So just keep an eye on the website and Telegram for what's happening. In terms of BMUK, so tomorrow we have a study circle with Swami Karuna at 7 o'clock. Wednesday evening we have Atma Kriya in depth. Thursday again at 7, another online chanting Om session. Friday, Simply Meditation course with Kamala. Sunday, again, Simply Meditation and AKI practice in the morning. So lots and lots happening, lots of opportunities to engage with Guruji and his teachings, and to come together as well. So again, Ravi, a huge thank you from all of us. Thank you all for gathering, Jai Gurudev, and tune in to Guruji and to Bhakti Marga online. Jai Gurudev, thank you.